Hi, students of a Perusable Feast. Welcome to week 3. We're already in week 3. It's so crazy. Time is flying. So I've read through and commented on all of your week 1 submissions. They're all wonderful and exciting and interesting, and I feel grateful to be surrounded by so many talented young writers and excited to see what you've done this past week in week 2. So take a look at my comments and my feedback. If you'd like further feedback on anything or resources, let me know. So great job. So this week we're talking about tension in writing. A lot of us are super familiar, at least subconsciously, with how tension builds in other art forms and other forms of media. And so that's a good entry point to thinking about tension in writing, in creative writing. So we might think about film first, right? Watching movies. We think about pacing. If a movie starts slow and then sort of rapidly or sort of accelerates to a more sort of urgent pace, that tension is created there in that pacing. It's about establishing time in a certain way in a film, or establishing context that's withheld, and then the buildup leads to increased curiosity, anticipation. The viewer in their own mind begins to sort of consider possibilities when information is withheld. So timing, pacing in a film, and then the sort of ways in which we infuse moments of or bits and pieces of information to pique a viewer's interest, in our case a reader's interest, curiosity, and formulating their own sort of theories about what could happen. In writing, it's exactly the same thing. So tension in many ways, I guess the better way to think about those two potential sources of tension, time, elongation, and sort of making it smaller. I can't think of a good word right now for that. Containing, I guess. So time, pacing, that's the long form, right? We're thinking about a whole movie or a whole book. The ways in which a writer manipulates movement, rapid dispersal of a plot or action. And then the smaller thing, the more detailed approach to tension is through detail, through information, withholding characters' feelings, withholding what a character really wants to say in a particular moment. That's the sort of small-scale approach to tension. And so tension, in both cases, the sort of slow movement and the withholding, that generates a feeling of desire in a reader, a desire for things to speed up, to become urgent, for information to be relayed, and for us to know why the thing that can't be said, why the character is not expressing the way they really feel. And so that buildup, that withholding, leads to a kind of release in terms of gratification in a reader. The movement towards the end of the book, of the poem, of the movie, what have you. And so it's sort of a case of deprivation and then gratification or fulfillment of desire. It's a really fascinating and tricky concept to navigate as an artist, as a writer, because you have to think both big picture and little picture. You have to think about the entire piece, and then you have to think about the component elements of the piece and how to how it would best suit the piece itself in terms of what to withhold and how to withhold. And so I would say, as a new writer, and honestly for me still, I'm not great at thinking about the giant picture. I'm not out here writing an 800-page novel where I have to think about momentum and strategies and making little ornate webs of characters and character development and intentions. It's overwhelming for me, and it might be overwhelming for you if you haven't tackled that approach already. And so my advice would be, and especially in this course where we're doing smaller exercises, shorter exercises, think about crafting and creating and honing tension within scenes or within a poem, a small fixed context. And so the way I would do that is to think about motivations either through character or through your intention. If you're writing fiction, you think about character motivations. You think about what does a character really want, and why won't they say what they want? What are sort of the benefits or the disadvantages of not saying exactly what they want in the moment and in the beginning of the piece? If you're writing a poem, or you're writing a piece that's specifically geared towards yourself, maybe not narrative based, you think about your own motivation. What do you want a reader to end with versus what they begin with, and how do you pace that out through the sort of unfolding of the piece itself? And so a way to do that in a piece of fiction where you're using character motivations is dialogue. Dialogue is like such an excellent way to build tension, because often when we speak or when characters speak, we speak in such a way that we have a real de-emphasis in society on manipulation, thinking that it's this sort of deceitful way of brainwashing someone into doing what you really want without being forthright about it. However, I think most of our speech is manipulative in a way. We want what we say to carry a certain weight, to have a certain resonance, to placate the person that we're speaking to, or to admonish them. Everything is simply sort of based in rhetoric, and rhetoric is in a way kind of manipulation. Manipulation just means approaching certain elements with intention behind it. And so to sort of divorce ourselves from that negative connotation, we think in a piece of art about how to withhold information via dialogue, maybe. So a way to do that is a character. Maybe there's two characters, and one's a mother and one's a son. And the mother asks the son in this piece of fiction, "How was your day at school?" And the son says, "Fine, I'm going to my room." Obviously, I mean, maybe not obviously, but it seems like he's not fine, right? And so that is a sort of form of rhetorical speech that withholds information. The reader, when they see that disjunction, that dissonance, that contradiction between the two characters, thinks, "Oh, what happened at school? Why doesn't he want to tell his mom what happened at school? Why is he in a bad mood? Why does he want to be alone?" And so this very sort of banal, normal interaction actually precipitates a kind of tension building, because the plot will move further and slowly over time. In this particular case, maybe you see the mother goes into the son's room while he's at school and tries to find a journal. Or maybe she hears him talking on the phone to one of his friends and gets information out. And then ultimately at the end of the piece, they have the big conversation about what really is happening at school. Why was he dissatisfied? Why was he upset? And why didn't he want to come to her? So that's just like a sort of like fixed example of how tension builds and how you might approach it through dialogue and scene setting. I guess I didn't really talk about scene setting, but it's evident in my example. In a poem or a nonfiction piece, like a specifically personal essay, it's not all that different. It's more about structuring the sort of, if you're approaching through the lens of the I, the first person speaker, you want to convey the I in the beginning in such a way, and through that beginning part, that sort of scene setting, in such a way that we may not feel we know everything about that I, that perhaps the I, the speaker, is withholding something, something crucial that will inform the way we perceive the ending of that personal essay or that poem. The movement of a character's own willingness to be vulnerable, to express the intention. Those are all ways to build tension. It's not on our reading list for this week, but if you want what I think is perhaps the best short story that reveals, and there's actually two. I'm going to give you two short stories that you can look up. They're both online for free. If you can't find them, email me. I have PDFs. That do tension in different ways. The first story, my favorite, is by an author named James Salter. The story is called Bangkok, like the city. And it does tension in such an excellent way through dialogue. It's a really bare, minimal world-building exercise, but the dialogue is so tense. It's marvelous, absolutely wonderful short story. And the second you may have read is Hills Like White Elephants by Ernest Hemingway. Personally, I'm not the biggest Hemingway fan, but the story is all predicated on this major event that the reader has no idea what's happening, and dialogue and world building are both devices used in that particular story. They're both great. If you read them, let me know and we can chat about them over email or something. Yeah, so I think that's all I have to say about tension. I'm excited to read your exercises for last week. Keep working for this week. As always, if you have any questions or want follow-up feedback, anything like that, let me know. I'm here for you, and really enjoying the class so far. Okay,